And for Fran Inman, I am her surrogate as well. So welcome to our 2018 State Improvement Program for today, our Northern California STIP hearing. We had our Southern California STIP hearing on January 25th, which I also participated in, and I'm glad to see that there's a good turnout. So I'm going to turn it over to Susan and have her deliver some opening remarks.
Thank you, Commissioner Dunn. I want to take this opportunity to thank you all for attending the second of two hearings required prior to adopting the 2018 State Transportation Improvement Program, otherwise called the STIP. The STIP is a 5-year program of capital improvements adopted by the Commission biannually in even-numbered years. It is comprised of the regional transportation improvement programs that are prepared by the regional agencies and the interregional transportation improvement program that is prepared by Caltrans. State law requires that the Commission hold at least 2 hearings, one in the north and the other in the south prior to adopting the STIP, each new STIP. The purpose of the hearings, as specified in the Government Code, is to reconcile any objections by any county or regional agency to the Caltrans program or Caltrans's objectives to any regional program. The hearings also provide an opportunity for each regional agency in Caltrans to explain its proposals and the reason that the Commission should include the proposal in the STIP. Each commissioner has a copy of the hearing briefing book prepared by staff. This is not a staff recommendation of any kind. It is simply staff's compilation of the RTIPs and the ITIP presented in a single format. I would want to let all of you know that the commissioners not here today also have this staff book. A compilation of this magnitude prepared in a relatively short time may include some errors or misinterpretations. Therefore, the compiled information remains subject to updating and correction before we prepare the STIP staff recommendations. We invite anyone concerned to bring us changes and corrections as soon as possible. Teresa Favila will now provide an overview on the development of the 2018 STIP. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. The RTIPs and the ITIPs were received by the deadline of December 15th. The STIP is constrained by the levels of funding identified in the fund estimate adopted by the Commission at the August Commission meeting. Each STIP covers 5-year periods and adds 2 new years of programming capacity. In addition, each STIP covers portions of consecutive 4-year county share periods. The fund estimate identified 3 targets for each region in Caltrans. These are the minimum, which is also referred to as the base, total target, and a maximum. The first 2 years of the 2018 STIP completes a 4-year share period ending in 1920. A new 4-year share period begins in the 3rd year, 2021. The new programming capacity for the 4-year share period ending in the STIP is reflected in the county summaries as the minimum share target. This means that programming proposed within the levels of the county's minimum share must be included in the new STIP. The fund estimate identified $2.259 billion in new capacity for STIP programming, with most of the capacity in the last 3 years of the STIP. We received $2.246 billion in RTIP and ITIP proposals. The first page of the hearing briefing book is a summary that compares the RTIPs and the ITIP proposals against the programming capacity levels identified in the fund estimate. The programming challenges for the 2018 STIP is that proposals for the first 2 years of the STIP period exceeds the capacity available by approximately $500 million. This means that many projects proposed for the first 2 years will need to be moved to the last 3 years of the STIP. In total, there were 21 counties in Caltrans that proposed above their total target level. Similarly, there were 33 counties that proposed below their total target level. The remaining counties have advances and therefore have no targets in this cycle. Although total proposals are below the available capacity, Staff may not be able to program every project, as some projects may not be consistent with STIP guidelines. After the STIP hearings, staff will begin preparing a comprehensive recommendation for adoption of the 2018 STIP. The STIP adoption is scheduled for the March Commission meeting. As required by statute, staff will publish its recommendation 20 days in advance of the STIP adoption. That will be no later than February 28th. Staff recommendations will be based on the proposals in the RTIPs and the ITIP, the capacity identified by the fund estimate, the policies in the STIP guidelines, and any further information that we may receive during and following these hearings. We will continue working with Caltrans and the regions to address any questions or unresolved issues as we develop our staff recommendations and to make sure we understand regional and interregional priorities and that no one is surprised by what the recommendation is and why. After this introduction, we will move into the interregional and regional presentations. Caltrans will make a presentation of its ITIP, and each regional agency will have the opportunity to make presentation regarding its RTIP and to comment on the ITIP. Before Caltrans and each region testify, staff will give a brief overview of the issues specific to the proposal. Members of the public wishing to comment should fill out a speaker's card and can comment following Caltrans or regional presentation or at the end of the hearing. This concludes my remarks, and if there are no questions, we can begin the presentations.
Thank you, Teresa. Any questions? Very good. Colleagues, we're fine. Excellent. So first up on the agenda is our proposed 2018 Interregional Transportation Improvement Program with Bruce Deterra. Did you want to give any opening comments there?
I will give a brief overview.
Thank you, Teresa.
Okay, the ITIP is located on your pages 81 through 83 of your hearing book. Caltrans is proposing $597 million of new programming. They are proposing above their target by $69 million. In addition, they have requested approximately $114 million more than their minimum target for the first 2 years of the STIP. Caltrans proposes to cover cost increases to projects that are carried forward from the 2016 STIP, restore projects or project components of projects that were deleted in the 2016 STIP. They're proposing to add 7 new projects in the STIP, mostly rail projects, delete 1 rail project, and propose 5 projects utilizing APDE shares. I will note 1 rail project Caltrans is proposing to program, the capitalized maintenance project. This project is missing an adequate PSR, or the Commission's Uniform Transit Application, which is the equivalent of a PSR. Also, the scope of work has not been defined. Projects without a PSR or a defined scope is not consistent with STIP guidelines. Bruce.
Thank you for that introduction. I am Bruce Deterra, Caltrans Programming Division Chief. My presentation is somewhat different from the presentation I gave at the South hearing in order to respond to some of the questions that I received by the commissioners at that hearing, and also to provide you a better representation of our map. Great. So on the packet that the commissioners have, at the back of that packet is an 11:17 version of the map that will fold out so that you can view that.
Thank you.
More easily. Thank you. Quite welcome. So I'm going to be providing more information than I did at the South hearing, and to those in the South who are watching this, I apologize for the additional information, but it still is going on record. So the purpose of the Interregional Transportation Improvement Program, the ITIP, has not changed, and this is in statute that there are projects to improve state highways, projects to improve the intercity passenger rail system, and projects to improve the interregional movement of people, vehicles, and goods. And I assume that if this was written today, those requirements might be worded slightly differently from emphasizing vehicles. It is consistent, the ITIP is consistent with the Interregional Transportation Strategic Plan, also known as the ITSP. That document is required by Senate Bill 486, and it identifies strategic interregional corridors where we are, the intention is to invest the ITIP ITIP funding on those corridors. And it provides the planning framework for our decision making, and it's a long-term planning document. The ITIP proposal that you have before you, the 2018, First of all, we fund cost increases on projects that were previously programmed within the previous ITIP, and I will provide more information based on Commissioner Inman's questions about those increases later in this presentation. It reinstates projects that unfortunately were necessary to delete in the 2016 STIP cycle because of the funding shortfall in 2016. So those would have been projects that were carried forward for 2014. And also because we have greater fiscal capacity in 2018, is to program subsequent project components for projects that are already programmed and to program new projects within this proposal. Changes since the ITIP hearings that the Commission held is that we've made several technical corrections to the programming sheets and working with Commission staff on that. We have a summary table and table 13 of all those changes. And we have a minor reduction in the total amount of the projects that we're asking in the funding. We were able to find more cost efficiencies. So this is a summary. This summary is different from what I presented at the South hearing. First of all, I'm showing the total dollar figure at the top where there were projects continuing forward from 2016 that have no cost increases, roughly $506 million of projects carrying forward from the 2016 cycle into 2018 that had no cost increases. Then we have cost increases from those projects, and that's the $123 million of projects that were in 2016 carry forward, and we have cost increases, and I'll explain that in a little bit of detail. We had restored projects and project components. Again, those were the projects that were deleted during the 2016 cycle due to funding shortages. We have new intercity rail projects at $114 million, and that includes the capitalized maintenance that Teresa mentioned. And then new highway project components that are consistent with the ITSP and would be consistent with some of the work we're already doing on some of the corridors. They're the next logical component to bring the project to full construction completion. So our total ask in the 2018 is $595 million of new funding. And additionally, we have the $506 million that's carryover from the previous one. So we're looking at roughly $1 billion of expenditures there, and then a relatively modest 48 million. 48 million. I got to remember where my zeros are in the APDE. So this is the list of projects that were carryover. This is additional information beyond what I presented in the South hearing to show you those lists and the projects for both highways and rail. So there are no new projects on this list, and there are no cost changes on this list. These are the projects that have cost increases that were in the previous 2016 cycle. And these are in thousands of dollars, so there's $123 million total. So if you'll notice Kramer Junction, second from the bottom, Highway 58, this is a project the Commission took action on earlier in 2017 to fund that project for construction. And at that time, we dealt with the cost increase. It was significant, but it was merited, and the Commission moved that forward. So that is almost half of the total cost increase of all the projects. But I'll provide further information as to why these other projects have cost increases. So normally, costs from previous ITIPs are updated on a 2-year cycle. In 2016, we elected not to update the project costs of projects that were continuing from 2014, because had we done that, we would have had to delete yet even more projects from the ITIP and delay them further, which would add to their cost increases further into the future. So in order to stop the bleeding essentially on the STIP, we delayed the cost increases until we had a positive cash flow, so you're seeing 2 STIP cycles worth of cost increases at this time. So let's see that, we got all that, Kramer Junction. And now this slide I did not show at the last STIP hearing, but it represents the volatility of the STIP since its inception in 1998 with SB 45. As you can see, and this, even though the dollars on the left-hand column represent the funding available to the ITIP, the relative proportion of the funding applies to the STIP. So you could just get rid of the dollar column, and this would be the variability of the entire STIP. So as you can see, if you're developing and delivering a project over this time period, you have very little certainty of how much money is going to be available, and therefore it extends the project development process. And as you extend the development process year after year or cycle after cycle, you're adding cost as the construction costs, inflation, other things play into this. So your costs are constantly going up on these projects where you have these long delivery time periods. And this is different from what you saw earlier today with the shop, where we have fiscal certainty and we're able to move through fairly quickly in a 4-year period from getting a programming and allocation to having a project that's ready to list. That's not the case with the STIP very often. We take advantage of when we have money and we get a component funded, and sometimes that project will sit for a while before the next funding component is available. So that's not an efficient project delivery process. Fortunately, with Senate Bill 1 and essentially the STIP fix, where the funding is relatively assured going forward, this problem is greatly diminished or entirely goes away. These are the projects that we've restored, or project components that had been deleted. So a substantial amount of money, almost $170 million. And as you can see, among these lists, you'll notice that the routes are very consistent, that we're trying to achieve the improvement of a route through its entirety. New intercity rail projects. The intercity rail projects are on our 3 state-supported systems, Capital Corridor, the San Joaquins, and then not the Coast Starlight, but the Surfliner. That these projects are focused on there. In addressing the capitalized maintenance, the department is working to provide or develop a PSR that will meet the Commission's requirements, and if we can't produce that to your satisfaction, we'll withdraw that project for this cycle. And then we have some cost savings, and then we have new highway projects. On the cost savings, we wound up moving the money to different components for the SR-70 project and reinvested, reduced our cost under the Solano 46. So you can see we have $188 million of new highway requests. Very notable is on the Solano 46, the Route 4146Y. That's a very large fiscal ask there within that list, stands out on that. And that's a T intersection, a very famous one that has very relatively high fatality rates, high injury rates. And so the priority for this project, even though we're over-programming, is very high due to the safety implications of that project. And for the APDE, we're able to advance up to 25% of the 6th and 7th year rather, of the next STIP cycle. These are the projects we're moving forward. We're not using our full capacity. We think it's prudent not to overreach on this and to maintain the ability to deal with unforeseen circumstances where we may want to advance a project and get it going mid-cycle, that we could come in and ask for an amendment at a future date possibly. And then this is the representation of where the projects are that have new funding requests for the highway side. This does not show all the projects that are already that big list of 506 million. Those projects are not on this map, but we can provide the Commission with a map showing all projects if desired. And also the rail projects are not on this map either. But with that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Bruce. Commissioners.
Could you give some light to, I've gotten whiplash on the Livingston and Madera
Yes.
widenings, lanes in, lanes out,
yes.
I-tip. You guys have gotten me totally confused and my phone rings off the hook. So please, give me some clarity as to what your plan is and what long-term certainty we can do, and if we only do one side, are we reducing economies of scale in construction?
Okay, so if I could start with that second to last point of the long-term, of the certainty, this is a very high priority. The Highway 999 corridor is a very high priority for the department, and we want to have the 6 laning of the entire route at a minimum, Sacramento to Bakersfield.
Right.
And a lot of that's done. Proposition 1B, the Highway 99 bond, we have a multiple agency, Caltrans was concurrent on that. of the long-term plan for that route. So Livingston itself is ready to list on, or close to ready to list on both the north and southbound Livingston. So
Right.
understand, one of them is fully within the ITIP and is safe, if I can use that word. And and I believe that's the northbound side.
Weren't they both in the, they're both were in
Yes,
the
they're
draft?
both in the ITIP. Unfortunately, one of them is in the new funding category, the other is
And I-
in the reinstated.
And I'm asking, how did that decision-making process get made to change from what you gave us in December to what I have today?
So they're still both in our ITIP proposal to fund within ITIP. So we also recognize that we're asking for more revenue than we have.
No, I know, but okay, no, I'm just saying, how did the prioritizing, because now as I read it, maybe I'm reading it wrong, but you're now just doing northbound on each of these?
Let's see.
Am I reading it wrong, where are you,
So the southbound is in the restored,
right, and then where's the northbound?
and then the northbound is in the new highway
So,
projects or project components.
so are you saying that those two for the Livingston is going to be together and going to be fully funded?
That is our intention, that makes the most sense to bring them together at the same time, so you have one construction project, not have a northbound and then have a southbound or vice versa. That we want to come out there, and as Jim Davis mentioned today in the workshop,
Right.
come in and do the project
right.
once and then get out.
Okay.
But
Is that
because
your
of
same intention in Madera on the 7 to 12 segment?
that is,
Okay. And then the 12 to 17 segment, what's the plan?
and the 12 to 17, we didn't have capacity for.
Okay, what's the
So-
plan?
So that one, and so that's, again, you've got sequential segments.
Right.
So whether we delay the construction on one of them, and we're talking now in District 6
Right.
in there, and I don't believe we have the District 6 director here to address that in more detail. But if we can, we want to construct them both at the same time. But if we can't, because we don't have the funding capacity, and this all hinges on SB 1 continuing. If we lose that funding,
That's for sure.
then we go
This all
back to
goes
that
away. Yeah.
leak.
We understand that.
Yes. So we're striving as best we can to make sure that we come together
So,
first north-south, and then if we have.
so as I understand
Joining.
you, this fully funds the Livingston segment, both north and southbound, correct?
It potentially does if the
Potentially.
department
Hasn't
received
been.
its full request, yes.
Right.
And we do have a contingency, if I can
Okay.
use that, in that for the trade corridors program, we've also asked both our partner and the department for a co-application onto the trade side.
If I can just jump
Mitch,
in
can you
here.
jump in for
There-
some
There's
clarity,
a lot of
please?
talk,
Yeah.
I guess, from Caltrans's perspective, they proposed well over their target. And the commission has not historically programmed over the target. But what Caltrans doesn't know when they develop the ITIP is how much within their proposal we're able to fund. One of the things Teresa noted at the beginning is now that we've added up all the requests, we have enough to fund everything that was asked of us, both in the ITIP and all the RTIPs, assuming each project is consistent with guidelines. And we
That's
may
why I
have-
keep asking what the plan, because I heard her say, if you just spread it out over 5 years, it can be done.
Correct.
So it's all about phasing.
So, and right now they have for the Livingston project, they have it proposed as if it were two separate contracts. You know, if it's a priority for the department that those end up in the same year, we can work with them to do that, because they're also proposed for the out years of the STIP. So there doesn't seem to be an issue of funding this project in the STIP right now, from looking at this.
Okay. Great. That will help my phone to calm down.
Okay. Anything I can do?
But I guess the other question is, well, that would come up later on other presentations. So so you were going to talk about how the trade corridors, you were kind of working with that. So tell me about that.
We did, that if the ITIP, if that failed, we were also applying for the trade corridors with the recognition that this corridor would, out of the ITIP, would be the most competitive to receive those fundings and could be theoretically something that if we were forced to withdraw a project for a certain dollar amount, that would be a project that might be able to be funded through trade corridors so that we would still deliver it, but it would just be a different funding program. But that is a competitive process, and it's competing against all the other projects.
For the, just so I know, for Caltrans for this whole corridor, the 99 corridor, what did you submit for the, what did the department submit for on trade corridors? Which projects?
We have the Livingston northbound is in trade corridors. And
okay.
I'm going to turn to my staff because
that's fine.
I'm not sure if the other, that's the only one that's in the trade corridors.
So you didn't put in for any of the Madera segments?
For the trade corridors, no, we did not.
Okay. So what's the plan on 12 to 17 segment in Madera?
That we would come back in the next ITIP cycle. So we have a number of corridors that still have outstanding components or segments of their highways that we have to come back. Was there any consideration for shovel readiness of projects? Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So our new list is, as you see that, there's actually very few projects. The Highway 70, though it takes up, a third of the list, is a very small dollar amount, and then we have the 2 on Highway 40, or 3 on Highway 46 that we address. So then we're only talking about 2 on the 99 corridor.
Okay.
So we're doing very little new. Our expectation for the next STIP cycle is that we'll have substantially more revenue available to the ITIP. We won't have the reinstatement of deleted projects. Our cost increases won't be a 2-year cycle, and we'll have the assurance of funding so that we should be able to bring more of these corridor segments in and accomplish quite a lot to finish some of these off. That's part of our goal through this process, is to not piecemeal the project improvements and do a little bit here and a little bit there, but get some of these corridors completed. 99 is a very big lift because there's a lot of miles and it's an expensive route, but we want to keep working at delivering those and get that finished. At the same time, we need to finish the Highway 46 corridor in both Kern and San Luis Obispo. We have the Highway 14 corridor in Kern that still needs doing. We have a Highway 29 in Lake County. We have a number of places that we've been working on these that we want to finish, and then we can turn to look at other corridors to bring them in. But prior to bringing in additional corridors, we would like to complete the work on this to get a continuous either 4-lane or 6-lane.
Teresa, do you have some clarity?
Yes, well, I do. I just want to make a note for commissioners as well, is that for every amount that the ITIP goes over their target, they're borrowing against their future shares. So then that means that their available capacity in future STIP cycles will be less because they would have to pay back. That includes for APDE and going above their target.
Yeah, and that was part of the consideration with APDE, is to not borrow any more than that. What we had, if I can advance to that one.
So I do have a real quick question. On your Livingston project, if you are successful in the trade corridors, does that mean that you will withdraw it from the ITIP?
It's as long as we can align up the construction. I mean, if it's funded in either program, I don't know that it matters to us. But my crystal ball is not, it's got a crack in it, so I can't tell if it's going to get funded under the trade corridors or not. So I went ahead to the APDE to show you that we have 2 other projects on the High 99 corridor that we're advancing the development of to get them going, to help get them ready more quickly. So that remains a high priority. And I also mentioned the Lake 29. That's a project that has a lot of safety and mobility importance on that, and we need to keep that moving forward. And then, of course, the San Mateo 101 is one of the SB1 identified corridors, and this is in an effort to get that moving.
Susan, do you have some thoughts here?
I do, Commissioners. I just wanted to share with you at this point in time, we have a competitive process underway within our office on a review of the local partnership program applications, as well as the trade corridor enhancement program applications. So during this time frame, staff is undergoing the review of the applications. I just want us all to be careful about giving any indication of pre-selection. That has not occurred. And I just want to make sure that that's clear. Those reviews of those applications will be reviewed against the Commission's guidance. And until the staff recommendations are made public, I just want to make sure everyone knows there are no recommendations at this point in time. We haven't even reviewed the
Just
applications yet. So this conversation, I just want to make sure. And the solutions for congested corridors, those applications are not due until February 16th. So we have not even received those in our office. So I just want to make sure that we're all clear on the competitive nature of those programs.
Yes.
Thank you.
And our goal is to actually fund it under the ITIP and eliminate any possibility of it not moving forward.
Okay, Bruce, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We're going to move on. Our next agenda is on Central Coast Coalition. We're going to hear from Juan first.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. The 5 counties that form the coalition are going to be coming up together, but individually they're going to present on their county. So the first one is Monterey, and you can find that on the pages 37 and 38 of your hearing book. Monterey is proposing to program within their targets, both the minimum and the total target. They are proposing to add 4 projects, 3 new projects, and 1 is a restore project deleted in the 2016 STIP. They will be seeking SB1 funds for their Route 156 Castroville Boulevard interchange project. Monterey County.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Todd Muck, and I'm with the Transportation Agency for Monterey County. TAMC is a member of the Central Coast Coalition, which consists of the regional transportation planning agencies in San Benito, Santa Cruz, Monterey, San Luis Obispo, and Santa Barbara counties, and the Association of Monterey Bay Area Governments. The Central Coast Coalition was initially formed in 2010 to raise awareness of transportation issues in the Central Coast, to highlight our region as a major economic asset to the state and nation, and to encourage investment in the region. This includes improving goods movement along US 101, Highway 1, and east-west routes, expanding passenger rail service along the coast, preserving our existing transportation facilities, and expanding active transportation as we work to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. We have welcomed the California Transportation Commission to town hall meetings in 2011, 12, and 13, and we look forward to seeing you in Monterey County in September. These town hall meetings have been a great opportunity for the coalition to showcase recent improvements and current challenges. Most recently, we showed you the importance of our region when it comes to goods movement and the high value of produce from the Central Coast. We also showed you that we are the salad bowl of the world. Today, each coalition member will be presenting their 2018 Regional Transportation Improvement Program and speaking on the significance of SB1. Notably, SB1 helps stabilize the STIP, allowing for leveraging opportunities with the new competitive programs and local sales tax programs. In some cases, to expedite delivery on priorities that would have otherwise taken decades to complete. Our coalition is unified in delivering impactful regional projects to improve safety, ease congestion, and enhance goods movement throughput along the Central Coast. One example of the coalition's unanimous support for Santa Barbara's US 101 multimodal corridor as the single priority project for our target of funding from the Trade Corridor Enhancement Program. This bag of lettuce here symbolizes how Monterey County innovation has made us the salad bowl of the world. Bagged lettuce was invented in Monterey County, and if you read the packages, you'll find that Monterey County lettuce is in supermarkets all over the country. But in order to get there, it needs to be delivered, and most of those trucks will travel on US 101. TAMC, working with Caltrans and the CTC, has a proven track record of delivering multi-million-dollar program of projects on the US 101 corridor, including the Prunedale Improvement Project, Airport Boulevard Interchange, and the San Juan Road Interchange at the Red Barn. Our 2018 RTIP emphasizes multimodal improvements to support the US 101 corridor and access to the Monterey Peninsula. In November 2016, Monterey County voters approved Measure X, a 3/8 sales tax for transportation. This past year, the TAMC Board of Directors adopted an integrated funding plan that coordinates funding from Measure X, Senate Bill 1, and the 2018 STIP share with our regional priority projects. The plan is a strategic effort to deliver on promises made to voters by getting Monterey County's high priority projects built as soon as possible. Our 2018 RTIP is an integral component of this effort, which promises multimodal solutions including rail, transit, bike ped that reduce congestion, improve freight movements, and supports our region's sustainable community strategy to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Building on our successful partnership with the CTC, I'd like to highlight several of the key projects in our 2018 RTIP request that emphasize these efforts. The first Monterey County project that could begin construction using a combination of Measure X, STIP, and if our grant is successful, SB1 funds, is the Marina Salinas Multimodal Corridor Imgen Parkway project. This project provides an alternative route for commuters between Salinas and the Monterey Peninsula that will provide congestion relief and greenhouse gas benefits from the construction of roundabouts, enhanced transit access, and improving bike ped facilities. Our agency used STIP funds to get the project ready for construction, and now we are prepared to move forward with construction in 2019, with Measure X funds in place to match our recently submitted SB1 grant application. Next is the highest priority project from Measure X, the Highway 68 Safety and Traffic Flow Project. Commuters between Salinas and Monterey Peninsula will utilize either the Imgen Parkway route or Highway 68, often switching between the two depending on traffic conditions. While the Imgen Parkway route relieves congestion on the state highway, the State Route 68 corridor is still a highly traveled commute corridor that our agency and Caltrans are seeking to improve with a set of long-term corridor improvements, including roundabouts and an innovative environmental and wildlife protections. This project again demonstrates the critical importance of the STIP to our region to position projects for construction. Our 2018 RTIP includes necessary funding in FY 18-19 to complete the PA and ED phase. Completing this phase early in the 2018 STIP cycle will allow us again to use our Measure X dollars as a match for the next SB1 Congested Corridors grant cycle for construction. Without the early STIP funds for PNAD, the project risks missing the next grant cycle and will likely be delayed. Finally, our State Route 156 Castro Boulevard Interchange project. This project is designed to provide direct freight access to the state highway system and improve safety at a key interchange that links State Route 156 freight corridor with the 101, helping Monterey County lettuce reach the rest of the country. With the environmental phase already complete on this project, our 2018 RTIP request seeks funding for the design and right-of-way phase to be matched in the construction phase with Measure X and the next cycle of SB1 trade corridor grants. TAMC's partnership with the CTC and Caltrans has been integral to our past success delivering projects so critical to our economy. With your continued support, these three projects could begin construction this STIP cycle. We thank you and look forward to continuing this partnership in the future. Next, I'd like to invite Rachel Marconi with Santa Cruz County Regional Transportation Commission to provide you with an update on the Santa Cruz 2018 RTIP.
We might have a question for you first.
So just for clarity, the Route 68 operable improvements at Jocelyn Canyon and Spreckles Boulevard is your #1 priority, right?
This actually replaces the Jocelyn County intersection with the whole corridor.
The whole corridor.
And that's the #1 project from our Measure X from the
Okay,
Measure
great,
X
thank you.
Very good, thank you. Mary Gilbert?
So you want to do Sacramento? So the next one, is it Santa Cruz? Okay.
Okay.
Did you did you want to change in order?
They
That's
changed
fine.
it for us.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Teresa, did you
No
want to say
problem.
anything? Oh, or Juan?
Yeah, Santa Cruz can be found on pages 62 and 63 of your hearing book. In Santa Cruz, their proposal is within their total target. However, their proposals in the first 2 years of the STIP, in the minimum, are above by 2.1 million. They are proposing to add 9 new projects, 8 of them in the first year of the STIP. They are proposing to program 1 new project using APDE funds. They are also proposing state-only funds for 6 of those new projects. In addition, a $329,000 project previously approved for state-only funding is adding over $2.5 million. This is over the state-only funding threshold. Santa Cruz.
Rachel, before you start, you brought salad. What did you bring us?
Sure thing. Well, to start out with, Santa Cruz County is home of Driscoll Berries and several other berry companies, so we brought
Thank
you
you.
some berries. But on top of that,
Which county brought chocolate?
I think that's in South America, unfortunately. But we are so thrilled to celebrate Senate Bill 1 and stability to Santa Cruz County that we also brought some Martinelli's cider, which is produced in Santa Cruz County. Although the apples come not only from Santa Cruz County, but also our sister counties of Monterey and San Benito, and probably several other places in the state. But
Yeah,
Martinelli's has
interest.
been in the Pajaro Valley since the 1860s.
They're a customer of mine.
And they are a critical part of all of our celebrations in Santa Cruz County. So we wanted to share that with you. We really appreciate the opportunity that Senate Bill 1 has given us to finally program and access some of our old unprogrammed balances of STIP funds. Back in 2016, we saw $7 million worth of projects deleted, which was very hard for everyone in the state to swallow. And so we are absolutely committed in our county. Our board, our elected officials are working daily to just reiterate how important this stable transportation funding is for addressing our backlog of needs. Additionally, in Santa Cruz County, the STIP is one of only 2 discretionary programs that we have available, so we really are dependent on these funds. Our voters did recognize that state and federal funding is insufficient, and we went to the ballot last November, and thankfully we approved a new half-cent sales tax measure, which is really letting us start to address some of these issues. It was a huge, heavy lift that included business groups, citizen advocates, nonprofit organizations, and we are just so excited. Unfortunately, our measure still only produces $20 million a year, which is not enough to address over $150 million a year that we are needing, that our regional transportation plan has identified. So again, these STIP funds are critical. Our 2018 RTIP proposes to invest the new funds in our old program balances to a range of projects, which we selected through a competitive process. Some folks know Santa Cruz County has a very active citizenry, and all decisions in our county are made with extensive public input. And so we feel like the proposal before you really does balance our needs on the state highway system, as well as what our voters really have prioritized, which is fixing our local roads and our transit system, as well as looking at some low-cost options to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in our county. One corridor in our county, which is the most heavily used corridor and one of the most congested on the Central Coast, is Highway 1. And currently, Highway 1 and all of the parallel roads are backed up for much of the day. Our trucks that are trying to get berries to market, our kids who are riding their bikes on the roads that are congested due to overflow traffic from Highway 1, from folks trying to avoid it, as well as our bus riders who just have no clue what time the next bus is going to come, are all impacted by traffic congestion on Highway 1. And so we're excited that our 2018 RTIP helps us identify some ways to alleviate at least some of those challenges. In our RTIP, we have auxiliary lane projects on Highway 1, as well as new bicycle and pedestrian bridges to make it safer to get across the highway, intersection improvements, fixing those local roads where trucks and other drivers have been diverting to avoid the traffic congestion on our highways, and some projects to improve the reliability of our transit service. We also recognize that there's not enough funding to do every single capital project, and so we've also proposed some innovative technology, well, not very innovative, we're just trying to catch up with everyone else, projects like letting bus riders actually look on their phone and see when the next bus is coming. We don't even have auto vehicle location devices right now on our transit system. Wow. So that's one of the projects on there that we think will also boost transit ridership. So while this STIP fund estimate only guarantees about $4.5 million of our unprogrammed balance in those first 2 years, our project sponsors are eager to deliver, and we're ready to expedite projects. And so our STIP proposal is loaded towards the first 2 years. People are ready to deliver these projects. That said, we understand that statewide there's not enough capacity for those projects, and we've already started meeting with project sponsors. We've identified $1.7 million worth of projects in the first 2 years that could get pushed out and delayed to the last 3 years if that's needed. And we'll continue to work with your staff and our project sponsors to see if there's anything else that we could delay. That said, the real message is we're ready to go. If the cash was there, project sponsors are ready to go to construction this summer on several of these different projects. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Mary Gilbert ask if there's any questions, I guess.
Questions for Rachel? Thank you.
All right.
Very
Next,
good.
I'm going to hand it over to Mary Gilbert with
Mary.
San Benito.
Come on up.
San Benito. This is located on page 50. San Benito is proposing an increase to their Route 156 four-lane expressway project, which is programmed in the first 2 years of the STIP. This increase, as a result, it exceeds their total target as well as their minimum target. Mary?
Good afternoon. Mary Gilbert, Executive Director of San Benito COG. And today, San Benito County is contributing bell peppers to your salad today. And these bell peppers are grown in the agricultural fields just adjacent to our State Route 156 corridor STIP project. So historically, San Benito COG has worked in partnership with the CTC and Caltrans to make great impacts when it comes to delivering critical projects that improve safety and support goods movement in the region. We've accomplished this with your help through valuable state resources, including STIP and Proposition 1B funds, along with local transportation dollars. And we're really looking at continuing that same effort with our 2018 RTIP to implement the San Benito Route 156 improvement project. And this supports the RTIP proposal from the ITIP proposal from Caltrans. So the project will construct a new four-lane expressway between the cities of San Juan Bautista and Hollister. And it's also really closing a gap from travelers on 156 that are traveling between Highway 101 over to the Central Valley. And so many of you may be familiar with the extreme congestion that we have on that corridor, as well as the safety issues. We have a lot of access points and agricultural traffic using the corridor. We're leveraging significant local transportation development impact fees that we charge to new development in the cities of Hollister and the County of San Benito to match the state funds that are proposed for the project. And overall, we're contributing 43% of construction funds. We are proposing to continue to advance STIP dollars for this important project, and we're looking forward to construction in fiscal year 19-20. So I just want to talk about some of the benefits of the State Route 156 improvement project. Again, it represents a partnership between San Benito COG, our local agencies, and Caltrans with that significant local investment of local dollars for a small community. It's a much-needed project for the residents of San Benito County, and it's been developed using an extensive public outreach process, and there's good public support for the project. But it's not only a local need, as Route 156 has been designated a focus route in the Caltrans Interregional Strategic Plan. And the project supports goods movement with up to 9% of truck traffic originating out of the Castroville and Monterey Bay and Salinas Valley areas over to the San Joaquin Valley. And this is the only direct agricultural freight movement and recreational route south of the Bay Area that connects the coast and the San Joaquin Valley. So this proposed project is aligned with our regional transportation plan and the sustainable community strategy, and it supports the ITIP proposal from Caltrans. And we really want to thank you for your continued support of this important project, and we appreciate the opportunity to advance STIP shares for construction, which should break ground in the fall of 2019, which we're very much looking forward to. And just as Rachel had mentioned, we're also very glad for the SB1 funding that is providing some stability for the STIP, and we're looking forward to coordinating on other important projects in the San Benito County region in the future. So I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Mary. Questions? Very good. Okay.
Thank you.
Next up is,
Rich Murphy from SlowCog.
thank you very much.
San Luis Obispo County is located on page 56. San Luis Obispo is proposing above their total target by $755,000 They are not proposing any new programming in the first 2 years of the STIP. They are proposing to add 3 new projects in the last 3 years of the STIP and proposing to program 3 projects using APDE shares.
Thank you very much, Teresa, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. The importance of agriculture and tourism in San Luis Obispo County fuels our local and regional economy. In the Paso Robles area alone, more than 200 wineries and 26,000 acres focusing on premium wine production exists. The economic impact of wine and grapes in North San Luis Obispo County is estimated at about $182 million, $1.5 billion, employing 7,000 persons with a total payroll of $182 million. The inclusion of these grapes, and Rachel sort of trumped us, we would have loved to have brought a bottle of wine and done the toasting with something delicious from North San Luis Obispo County. But instead, we've got grapes to add to the salad bowl to acknowledge our contribution to the Central Coast region's economy. State Route 46 and US 101 are the lifeline routes in and out and through San Luis Obispo County. The safe and efficient operations of these 2 routes remain the focus of SLOCOG's funding efforts. Yesterday, we heard from former Congressman William Thomas speak to the issue of the importance of moving goods and people horizontally through the state. State Route 46 from Interstate 5 west to the coast and US 101 does just that. State Route 46 supports the annual movement of $7 billion worth of goods shipments between the coastal and Central Valley regions and supports the $5 billion Central Coast tourism industry, serving national and international travelers. Our coastline receives 2.8 million annual visitors to the beaches, and as many as 1.5 million access the Oceano recreational vehicle, state vehicle recreation area. And without question, State Route 46 is a critical alternative route when inclement weather forces closures on I-5 and US 101. Our RTIP, to further our partnership, as you'll see, recommends continued investments on the 46 corridor to the best of our ability. We heard earlier of the 41-46 interchange under the ITIP program. We are making a contribution, as we have throughout the entire process of the widening of State Route 46 from a 2-lane expressway to a 4-lane expressway. There's over $350 million currently invested on that corridor, and with the recommendations in the ITIP, we see great progress moving forward. Also, SLOCOG has been very active in pursuing additional federal funds through the Infra and Tiger program to complete that last link, the Antelope grade. We're going to hear from the Federal Highway Administration later in the spring with respect to how those applications fare. And we know that our current COG partners in Kern County are doing everything they can to complete and secure funding for the Lost Hills segment. So we're all collectively doing our best to make those improvements happen. Also, we understand the importance of asset management and the need to optimize the value of this collective investment. SLOCOG and the City of Paso Robles is working to advance recommendations from our 2009 Comprehensive Corridor Planning effort. On-system and off-system improvements in the urban corridor of State Route 46 are needed to achieve the optimal performance benefits for this investment. Just this week, the City of Paso Robles submitted an SB1 local partnership grant for parallel route improvements, and by February 16th, you'll receive a complimentary application for Cycle 1 SB1 congested corridor funds that will be submitted by us, SLOCOG, for on-system congestion pinch points that arise in the urban area of the 46 corridor. Regarding US 101, and I'll be brief here, we're making progress to advance meaningful solutions in the South San Luis Obispo County. That section of US 101 that provides motorists their first coastal vista when traveling south from the Bay Area. With our partners, we are implementing as assertively as possible the recommendations arising from a comprehensive and performance-based planning effort that was completed in 2014. Our 2018 RTIP, we have placed an investment focused on the highest priority US 101 corridor need, the construction of a managed lane in the southbound direction in the Pismo Beach area. This project will address the travel time delay experienced by the regional and interregional travelers when packaged together with other system-wide multimodal improvements, ranging from enhanced public transit, park and ride improvements, bike and pedestrian improvements, as well as the completion of frontage roads and alternative route improvements. We especially welcome the opportunity to work closely with Caltrans District 5 to integrate a wide variety of cost-effective applications in this corridor, such as ramp meters and other strategies that maximize existing service potential and improves the security, safety, and reliability of the system. My boss would want me to remind the Commission that our efforts of becoming a self-help county in 2016 missed by less than 1%, or 467 votes out of 130,000 votes cast. Although it still stings, we are moving forward to advance our program of priority projects. Our goal is simple: leverage our funds and partner with local, state, and federal stakeholders every chance we get. We understand the importance of shovel-ready projects, and we're excited to submit a second SB1 grant application for the US 101 corridor by February 16th. Slow Cog Board supported a 30% match of our discretionary funds for this application. We're grateful to your staff for providing us early feedback on our funding approach. Thank you, Teresa and Mitch. And to introduce our next speaker, or to answer any questions on our proposal, I'd be happy to do that.
Carl?
Thank you. It's not on your proposal, but on your last comment, losing by 467 votes out of 130,000 cast. Wearing my day job hat, if you would ever like to huddle and just share lessons learned and perhaps some thoughts on how to eke out those handful of votes on a future effort, I'd be delighted to do so.
We'd be very grateful. Thank you.
Great, thanks.
Very good. Thank you very much.
You bet.
Thanks, Rich.
And thank you very much. Margie Kern from SBK.
Great. And Juan, you want to open
Thank
that
you.
one up?
Commissioners, Santa Barbara can be found on page 59 of your book. Santa Barbara is proposing to program below their total target. However, they're proposing above their minimum target by over 13 million. And you should know it's not going to be reflected in the hearing book, but they've submitted a revision based on, communication that we had with them when on their proposal. And they're changing it a little bit, but they're still proposing to add 15 million to their Route 101 project. They will split the project into two segments and will seek SB1 funding for it.
Great. Thank you so much. I'm Margie Kern. I'm the Executive Director from Santa Barbara County Association of Governments. And my contribution to the salad's not complete without an avocado. So add that to the mix. The devastating fires and the resulting Montecito mudslides that closed the Highway 101 freeway for 12 days has dramatically reminded us of the critical importance of the US 101 to our communities and to the state. The freeway is an essential transportation route for Ventura and Santa Barbara counties in connecting us, the both of us, and provides a vital role for goods movement in the state of California. We are extremely grateful to the first responders and the state and local government agencies who work tirelessly to protect our community from the recent flood and fire. You saw the director's presentation yesterday. Caltrans did an amazing job in opening this freeway as soon as it was humanly possible, and we thank them for that. So SBCAG has been working with Caltrans and the CTC to deliver multimodal improvements in the 101 corridor for years that address the increasing daily congestion faced by 100,000 drivers who travel the 101 each day. 15,000 commuters are traveling from their homes in Ventura County to jobs in Santa Barbara during our peak hours. Congestion chokes our 101 corridor for 4 to 5 hours a day, and the future projections, this will increase to 11 hours per day. This is the problem we face, but fortunately, we have a balanced solution to implement. Thus far, working in partnerships with the CTC and Caltrans, SBCAG has made great progress towards addressing the congestion with improvements funded through a combination of STIP, Proposition 1B, and our Measure A Transportation Sales Tax Program dollars. We look forward to building on this strong partnership to continue in the 101 corridor with the SB1 funds to deliver a multimodal solution for all travelers in the corridor. The US 101 Multimodal Corridor Project is a transformative, I knew I was going to stumble over this, transformative project for our region and the state of California. The foundation of the 101 Multi-Corridor Project is the construction of a HOV lane, and I think Sark has passed out the flyer, which also includes the map on the inside of this corridor. This HOV lane will connect Santa Barbara to Carpinteria. When complete, we will have 16 miles of HOV lanes between Ventura and Santa Barbara counties. Expanded to an improved interregional transit, we'll use these HOV lanes to encourage folks to get out of their single occupant vehicles and into transit. New passenger rail service will provide commuters new travel options and improved bike and pedestrian connections will increase the coastal access and mobility choices. All these projects have and will benefit from the funding our voters approved through the Measure A program. Santa Barbara's voters have stepped up to contribute local dollars to invest in our regional transportation system. Local voters have dedicated $285 million in Measure A funds for the US 101 multimodal corridor, with $140 million dedicated to the 101 HOV project in particular. The SBCAG board has leveraged these Measure A dollars by dedicating our future and current RIP shares, but we still face a major funding gap of approximately $280 million to complete the needed 101 multimodal corridor improvements. Thanks to the governor and our legislature, the passage of SB1 has created an opportunity for our state to fund and deliver critical and transformative transportation projects like our 101 corridor improvements. SBCAG and Caltrans have jointly submitted applications for the local partnership program and the trade corridors enhancement program for the improvements of 101. So obviously it's a joint priority for both of us. As Todd mentioned, the Central Coast Coalition has unanimously supported our 101 corridor project as the sole project for the $16 million in freight target funding. We will also be submitting, like everyone else, a solutions for congested corridors application by the February 16th deadline. And that application, in my mind, is almost complete. We might even get it in early. The goal for our Cycle 1 is to deliver the first 3 segments of our US 101 Phase 4 with the construction allocations requested in the 1920 fiscal year. As part of our 2018 RTIP request, we are asking to reprogram a local project that was deleted as part of our 2016 STIP and to program our new capacity share of $19 million to the 101 HOV project to get ourselves ready for construction by that 1920 fiscal year. We also appreciate Caltrans proposing to reprogram $3 million that was also deleted in the 2016 ITIP process. I believe our Santa Barbara US 101 multimodal corridor improvements are the poster child for your SB1 program, funding program, and we look to transform our region into a transportation network to address the local and state needs and priorities. SBCAG and Caltrans' strong partnership, our large local investment and local support, and our project readiness are key to delivering on the promises made by the legislature in passing SB1. An investment by the CTC with SB1 will be instrumental as we look forward to completing this critical corridor. So in conclusion, the coalition has shown today and at past town hall meetings that we are good stewards of the transportation dollars. We are joined by our common issues and support our unique needs. We are ready to apply and deliver the critical SB1 projects in our region. We look forward to inviting you to all of our groundbreaking ceremonies, because who doesn't like to go to the Central Coast? We appreciate your consideration of our SB1 grant applications and STIP requests, and look forward to seeing you in September in Monterey. So thank you very much.
That's great. Thank you. Questions?
Yeah, so your requesting is over, and it's really bunched up into the 1920. Is there some guidance you can give to staff if there needs to be some adjustment on what is prioritized over what?
The Highway 101 corridor would be the priority for us.
Thank you.
And getting that project ready to go to apply for the SB1 funding is no doubt our priority for our region.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marty. Just a little note, for some of us that are not in the area, I love the visuals of the salad bowl, but I'll tell you, telling your story for me would also help me. I'm pulling up Google Maps faster than you guys are talking, just to put things in context and make sure San Benito County is in the same place that I remember it when I drove up there once, right? So maps are really helpful as well to show the projects that you're looking at. Maybe we can ask for that. I am not one that, I understand, but then I was looking for, what was it? Route 217, and which isn't on the map. So I'm just
Okay.
putting things in perspective for me is helpful. And so, again, I'm not a paper freak, and maybe it's just, let's give Lucy a second so she can pull up her Google map to find out where you're talking about, is all I need. But
Okay.
anyway, thank you very much for your presentation,
Thank
all
you.
of you, very much from the Central Coast. Okay, trying to keep on schedule here, we have
Yes.
MTC.
We have the MTC region. Commissioners, MTC covers 9 Bay Area counties: Alameda, Contra Costa, Marin, Napa, San Francisco, San Mateo, Santa Clara, Solano, and Sonoma. As a whole, MTC is proposing to program under their total target by over 37 million. However, they are proposing to program above their minimum by over 70 million. I will briefly give an overview of each of the counties that we potentially may have an issue, and I'll give you rapidly the page number, and then I'll turn it over to Ann. Alameda is in page 2 and 3. They are proposing to delete 1 project and restore 1 project. They will be seeking SB1 funds for one of their new projects. Alameda is also proposing a supplemental funds for one of their rail projects. This is not consistent with STIP guidelines, and so staff will need to talk to the region about this. The next county is Contra Costa, pages 9 and 10. They are proposing to restore 2 projects that were deleted from the 2016 STIP. They will also be seeking SB1 funds for these projects. And they are proposing state-only funds for one of their rail and transit projects, their Walnut Creek BART access improvement. Given the limitations in PTA funding, this will be recommended only if it's eligible for state highway account funds. Napa County, pages 39 and 40, is proposing to delete 1 project and program 2 new projects. They will be seeking SB1 funds for one of their projects. San Francisco, page 54, is proposing 2 new rail projects. These projects are missing a PSR, or the Commission's Uniform Transit Application, which is the equivalent of a PSR. Also, the scope of work has not been defined for these projects, and staff will not be able to recommend these projects because it's not consistent with STIP guidelines. San Mateo is on page 57 and 58. They are proposing to delete 1 project and program 5 new projects. One of their new projects, the Route 101 Managed Lanes project, will be seeking SB1 funds. However, I should note that this project is not fully funded and is not consistent with STIP guidelines. And Santa Clara is proposing 7 new projects. One of these they're proposing to fund with APDE shares, and they will be seeking SB1 funds for 2 of their new projects. And that is it, Ann?
Fantastic. Welcome, Ann.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners. I don't have a salad bowl or a...
But you have a map, I'm so happy.
I do have a map, yes, so hopefully that will provide a little visual assistance. So I'm Ann Richmond. I'm the Director of Programming and Allocations at the Metropolitan Transportation Commission. I'm pleased to be here today to give an overview of the Bay Area's Regional Transportation Improvement Program, or RTIP. The RTIP is an important source of funding in the Bay Area. Thanks to SB1, the MTC region received roughly $290 million in new transportation funding capacity. This is welcome news, especially given that the previous STIP in 2016 saw a deletion of over $100 million worth of transportation projects from the 9-county Bay Area. Many of the deleted projects are proposed for reprogramming in this cycle, though some have been delivered using other funds in the meantime. To begin with, I'd like to highlight the region's delivery record in the past 2 years since the adoption of the 2016 STIP. The region has worked closely with our partners, including the congestion management agencies, Caltrans, and the Commission, to successfully deliver a number of important projects in the STIP. A few examples are the US 101 Broadway Interchange Reconstruction Project in San Mateo County, the I-80 SR-12 Interchange Project in Solano County, and a new Fairfield-Vacaville train station, also in Solano County. These projects would not have been possible without RTIP funding. The MTC region proposes programming the new RTIP capacity to important projects throughout the Bay Area. Of the $290 million, about 30% is proposed to improve and reconstruct state highway interchanges, 24% to construct and convert HOV lanes to express lanes, and just under 20% to upgrade and reconstruct important regional transit assets. The remaining RTIP funding will go towards bike and ped projects, sound walls, technologies, planning projects, et cetera, throughout the region. MTC's RTIP story can best be told, however, by acknowledging the new and augmented programs also created by SB1. As the SB1 competitive programs are being developed, Bay Area counties are programming RTIP shares to match their SB1 project nominations. I'd like to highlight a few projects that have proposed a mix of both SB1 competitive program funds and STIP funds. First up, the San Mateo City and County Association of Governments and the Santa Clara Valley Transportation Authority proposed programming almost $50 million in RTIP funds to the US 101 Express Lanes project. Caltrans is also proposing $18 million in ITIP funds for this project, and we're very supportive and grateful for that. The proposed project would add a managed HOV and express lane on US 101 from roughly the San Francisco Airport to Mountain View, over 25 miles in each direction, through San Mateo County and into Santa Clara County. The 101 corridor connects the tech centers of San Francisco and the Silicon Valley and has the support of legislators and tech companies alike. San Mateo and Santa Clara, along with MTC and Caltrans, are submitting an application for this project for the Solutions for Congested Corridors Fund. It's worth noting that this corridor was one of two examples mentioned in the SB1 legislation. Staff from San Mateo and VTA are at today's hearing in case you have detailed questions about this regionally significant project. Next, I'd like to highlight the Solano Transportation Authority project, which proposes programming $9 million in funds to the 80-680-12 Interchange Project Phase 2A. This segment of the Interchange Project extends the benefits of the recently completed SR12 Jameson Canyon Widening Project by adding an additional lane from eastbound SR12 to eastbound I-80. As you well know, I-80 is a major transcontinental route supporting the traveling public as well as connecting the Port of Oakland with goods movement points east. STA submitted an application for this project for the Trade Corridor Enhancement Program, and their staff is also here today should you have questions about this important freight program. Third, the Contra Costa Transportation Authority proposes programming $19 million in RTIP funds for the I-680 SR4 Interchange Phase 3 project. This project will replace this aging interchange at the heart of Contra Costa County. CCTA is working closely with Caltrans to develop and fund this improvement and has submitted an application for local partnership program competitive funding, and their staff is here in case you have any questions as well. Other notable RTIP projects proposed in the region include the 680 SR4 Interchange and SR84 Widening Project in Alameda County, the BART extension to Silicon Valley sponsored by VTA, and many other transit, local intersection, and active transportation projects. Some of those projects are also applying for SB1 funds through various competitive programs, and most all of them are also supported by local funding. MTC has many ambitious goals and projects set out in our regional transportation plan and sustainable communities strategy. And to that end, MTC and our local partners are excited about the opportunities afforded by the STIP and other SB1 programs, and we look forward to putting the funds to good use for the public's benefit as soon as possible. Thank you for your consideration of our RTIP. The Bay Area appreciates the hard work of you and your staff, and as well as Caltrans staff, who is dedicated to our RTIP proposal and has been diligently working with us to hammer out all the questions and details. We look forward to working together as CTC considers the 2018 STIP adoption in March, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Colleagues, questions? Wow, you did a great job. No questions.
Even without a salad.
Bamboozled us all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ann. Very good. Next up, Trinity. Richard Tippett.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioners. I'll find it. Yes, right here. It's on page 75 of your hearing book. Trinity County is proposing to program within their total target, but they are proposing above their minimum by over $2 million. They are adding the construction component for their Loudon Park Senior Center Bike and Ped Lane project. Trinity County, and he's walking up as we see.
My apologies. Sorry, I couldn't bring anything growing in Trinity County. They wouldn't let me through the door. I wanted to thank the CTC and also I wanted to be sure to thank staff over the last couple of years of all the help that they've given us with some of the programming things that we had. We just accomplished building a bypass around town. That was quite a bit of money and quite a bit of investment, and it was successful. But it was only successful because of the hard work that everybody put into it. Loudon Park Trail is a project that was actually derived even before the ATP program came along. It was funded through TE, Transportation Enhancement Revenues, or allocations. And it's a 1.5 mile paved trail that's proposed to be constructed from the new bypass road that I just mentioned to a local park. It is a component of hundreds of miles of dirt paths that we have, or trails that we have all through Trinity County. But it would make up 35% new sidewalks within the community, because we only have about 1.5 miles, 2 miles of sidewalks. As a matter of fact, the bypass route was the one that was probably the biggest contribution to a new paths. The problem is, despite this project being a regional priority, it hasn't performed very well in the ATP program. We have invested probably over 200 hours for a staff of 1.5 persons in our office, and each cycle that's gone through has gotten a lower score than the one before. And so staff has offered to help, but our Transportation Commission had asked that we go ahead and program this project because it's important to them and they'd like to see it built. And candidly, they were frustrated with seeing us say, well, let's wait another 2 years and see if we get it programmed into the ATP program. So after the third try, we decided to program that project, and that's the project that is the one that's our primary project within the list that's submitted to you today. Thank you.
Questions, colleagues?
What portion of that project scores so poorly on the ATP?
It's hard to tell because it's a good project for the region, but it's a project that doesn't necessarily fit the parameters of what the ATP program is about.
Okay.
The difficult thing is for unincorporated small counties in California is that it's hard to put together a project that would fit within the program, but usually those projects are very regionally significant to that area. And candidly, it's hard to say what the solution would be to figure that out, other than to sometimes go back and just end up programming it through STEP.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, Mendocino, Council of Governments.
Mendocino County is on page 30 and 31. Mendocino County is proposing to program within their total target. However, they are proposing above their minimum by $172,000. They are proposing to restore 2 projects that were deleted in the 2016 STIP. Nafel?
Very good.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Nafili Barrett. I'm actually going to be speaking briefly about the RTIPs for both Mendocino and Lake counties. In our Mendocino County RTIP, the projects focus primarily on safety and operational improvements, as well as bicycle and pedestrian enhancements on state routes and our busiest local roads. The majority of projects are on or connect to state routes, which continue to be a priority for our region. We have 2 projects that will provide bicycle and pedestrian facilities on State Route 1. One of those is a restoration from the projects that were deleted in 2016. Another project that we've been able to restore from the 2016 deletions is a roundabout project at an interchange with US 101 and one of our busiest local arterials. We also have a widening project on a narrow rural road that provides access to the only community in our county that is not served by a state highway, as well as a road diet project through the downtown core of our largest city. We are pleased to be moving forward with these projects and happy to be able to restore the projects that were deleted in 2016, and we look forward to funding availability continuing to move in this positive direction. In Lake County, our projects also focus on operational and safety improvements. We have 2 roundabout projects, one in the city of Lakeport, which is a restoration from the 2016 deletions. Another is a new project, which will alleviate congestion on State Route 53. But perhaps the most exciting thing in the Lake RTIP is full funding for Segment 2C of the Lake 29 Expressway project, as well as PS&E funding for Segments 2A and 2B of that same project so that those can continue to move forward. These projects will provide major safety improvements for a segment of highway that has one of the highest fatality rates in the state. And we want to thank Caltrans District 1, as well as headquarters and the commission for their support of these important projects. And we look forward to funding opportunities through SB1 that we may not have otherwise had for the future components of these projects. That concludes what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner.
I guess same question as the previous speaker. Any luck with ATP projects on the Route 1 bike project in Fort Bragg? Have you guys applied at any point yet?
That particular project, I don't believe it's sponsored by the city of Fort Bragg. I don't believe they have applied for ATP for this particular project. Although it is definitely a busy route, it doesn't necessarily have the accident history that is so strongly weighted in the ATP program.
Okay. And then same question on the Lakeport Route 175 bike project. On Main Street in Lakeport, there's a bike project in Lake County. Have you had any success with ATP yet on that?
I believe what you are talking about is not actually the bike lanes are just a portion of a
Okay, it's just a complete streets type of project.
It is.
That's the same thing with Soda Bay.
Project, yeah.
That's the same thing with Soda Bay?
Yes.
Okay.
Those are 2 segments of one larger corridor project.
I understand now. Thank you for the clarification.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Nafili. Next then is Butte County Association of Governments. Juan?
Sorry. Commissioners, Butte County is on page 6. Butte County is proposing to program above their total target by over $2.5 million. However, they're proposing below their minimum. They are proposing to add 3 new segments of their Route 70 passing lanes project. The completion of these improvements will improve safety in this corridor. They're also proposing to fund one of the segments using regular and APD shares to fund the environmental phase. Butte County.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Welcome,
Thank you.
Ivan.
My name is Ivan Garcia. I am the programming manager for the Butte County Association of Governments responsible for preparing the RTIP. The only map I have that I brought with me.
It's kind of creepy, thanks.
I've been sick all month.
Thanks, Yvonne, very creepy.
That was the only map I had was the one of why we're standing here. Is
But
to
it's
address
important. No, it's important.
fatalities. With
Thank
me
you.
here today, back here is Mr. John Clark, Executive Director for BCAG, and the City of Marysville's Mayor Ricky Samayoa, as well as Chair of the Butte County Association of Governments, Mr. Bill Connolly, who will be providing our comments today.
Thank you. Welcome, sir.
It's rarely that a guy like me that's been elected 4 times gets nervous, but there is a burden on my shoulders today to prevail upon you to help get approval of this project. As my planning commissioner was in a wreck, there's 3 crosses represented there. He survived, but there were 3 fatalities. A gentleman I grew up with up the street retired at 63 and was all happy and on his way to Sacramento, and he was killed a couple years ago. So I stand here before you as an elected official, as a chairman of the board, as a father and a grandfather, somebody worried about my family's safety and my constituents. future. BCAG is fully supportive of this project. We want you to know that we'll work with Yuba County. And that's included in our draft 2018 STIP recommendations. It is the California Transportation Commission's vision that brings us here. Over 30 years ago, they looked at the SR 7099 corridor and came along with BCAG and SACOG, and they came on board with the idea that State Route 70 corridor is the proper way to go. This is the 30th year we've done this. BCAG, Caltrans, SACOG, and CTC continue our partnership to implement the vision and project recommendations identified in the SR 7099 corridor plan. One primary goal was to connect Chico to Sacramento by four-lane road. This is a promise that goes back over 50 years ago. It was promised when we were building the Oroville Dam that's in the news right now, and it's something I think we need to follow through on. We're a population of almost 250,000, we're the largest by population county not connected anywhere by a four-lane corridor. To date, there's been $862 million approved and spent. 15 major highway projects have been completed, and those are in Sutter, Yuba, and Butte counties. Together, we're nearing completion of the State Route 70 corridor improvements and are focusing on the remaining projects between the city of Oroville and Butte County and the city of Marysville and Yuba County. Therefore, the mayor's here in support. It's a distance of only 26 miles, but has many challenges. It's because both sides are prime agricultural land. There's ag production facilities, I believe 5 or more. I had them go out and count them. There's 235 private driveways. It has 24 at-grade intersections, and that's why we have the numerous safety problems and the deaths that you see before you. It's picked up to the point we have to finish this in 5 lanes. There's no other practical way to do it. And so I'll go over it again. In 2017, 13 fatalities in Butte County alone. Only 2 are related to drugs or alcohol. The rest were just directly related to inpatients and passing. We had 2 major disasters. Again, the Oroville Dam incident, where we had to evacuate up to 180,000 people in the region. Highway 70 was thoroughly congested, thoroughly inadequate to move people. And then we had our fires. We had 5 fires in my district alone, but again, when 70 was called upon as a 2-lane facility, it's inadequate. And as a result, there's not a good side to people dying, but as a result of these accidents and fatalities, Caltrans is now authorized to use SHOP funds to make safety improvements between Oroville and Marysville. This now allows BCAG and Caltrans to leverage their respective STIP fund allocations with the SHOP funds to construct the needed 4-lane highway between Oroville and Marysville, and that should be 5 lanes. We have to have a center lane. As proposed, BCAG is recommending to leverage all our 2018 RIP funding allocation with Caltrans SHOP and IIP funds to complete 3 projects in Butte County, which will widen State Route 70 to 4 lanes from the city of Oroville to the Butte County line. It may be noted that we already have a connection between Oroville and Chico. That's complete. In addition, BCAG is recommending to contribute $4 million of our 2018 RIP allocation to Caltrans, so they may leverage those funds with SHOP funds to complete the necessary environmental documents for an ultimate 5-lane safety capacity widening project in Yuba County. So in my words, we're reaching out to the neighboring county, willing to put our funds on the line to do something that benefits the region. BCAG recognizes the widening of the entire State Route 70 corridor between Butte and Yuba counties is critical in order to provide the necessary safety and capacity needs for the travelers that use this corridor. We humbly ask that you give thoughtful consideration to our 2018 STIP recommendations and continue to work with BCAG and Caltrans to complete a vision set forth by the agency CTC 30 years ago. Thank you so much for your time. Do you have any questions?
Questions?
I have staff right here that can answer them. And I could have brought a case of the Sierra Nevada beer, but I didn't think it was appropriate.
No.
we approved a shop allocation, I believe in October for this segment. Piggybacking on our conversation today, we've got a shop allocation, we have the ITIP, we have the STIP. I think staff, it would be great to look at if we could do a complete corridor, and maybe we save money by doing one large project rather than breaking it up into small. But, that's...
I'll defer to staff, but I think we're saying...
Well, I'm talking to our staff here as they explore how this, and work with Bruce and his team over at Caltrans.
And I believe they are working towards that. They still have the environmental phase that they need to work for segment 3, I believe. Is that correct, Ivan? But that is the approach that you want to take.
Correct. We're leveraging our limited RIP funds with STIP and shop safety. Absent shop safety, there's no way we can complete all of this. Currently, right now, using old earmark funds, we are completing the environmental documents for 2 segments. That will be completed in a few months. The 3rd segment that approaches our county line, we still need to get started on the environmental document. But we are trying every angle that we can to accelerate the delivery of this project in the entire corridor. One thing I do want to add is we did submit for a federal infra grant for $36 million for our region. And if we are successful, then we'll come back to you and see if we can play the shell game and finish the entire corridor between Oroville and Marysville and be done. Our goal is to do it once and do it right.
Commissioners, I want to assure you this is a high priority corridor for the state, and that Commission staff recognizes it. And I want to thank you for the letter that you sent to me shortly after the adoption of the 2016 STIP. I want to let you know I do read the letters that you send to me or anyone sends to me. I didn't have time on the Friday that it came in. I took it home on a Saturday. I was reading my letter, your letter, and drinking my coffee. And I don't want to get emotional here, but your letter truly touched me. And it was devastating that we did not have the money that we needed for your project. So I'll leave it at that, because this is a very high priority. So, and now we have Senate Bill 1 funding. We're not looking at deprogramming projects. We can move forward on addressing these key corridors in the state that are so important. And to know that people were, I think you had a child fatality, and it's the money that SB 1 provides is critically needed for this state. So I'll leave it at that.
Well said, Susan. Thank you very much. Thank you for your very powerful testimony and for coming today. Thank you.
It's my pleasure to come up and visit us.
We will.
Thank you.
We will. Shasta County Regional Transportation Planning. Teresa, and then Dan Little.
Commissioners, Shasta County, located on pages 64 and 65, they are proposing to program below their total target and just $112,000 above their minimum. They are proposing to advance their Route 5 Reading to Anderson 6-lane Phase 1 project, and they will be seeking SB 1 funds for their Route 5 Reading to Anderson 6-lane Phase 2 project. They are proposing to fund 2 new projects using APDE shares. Dan?
Thank you, Teresa. Dan Little, Executive Director for Shasta Regional Transportation Agency. I come bearing maps, both hard copy and
I'm a happy girl.
and pictures. Pictures are always good too. So, I want to focus mostly on the Interstate 5 project. That's the capstone. That's what we've been shooting for all of my tenure. For 15 years, actually, we programmed, save for a few non-motorized projects, all of our RTIP dollars on Interstate 5. That's $28 million, including this proposal to date. And we've made some good progress. That map doesn't show it very well with those shades of green, but the dark green to the far north and south, those are projects we funded with prior RTIP funds and also a big boost from CMIA funds under the old Prop 1B program. So those projects are done. The RTIP proposal is the somewhat lighter green between the lime green and the dark green to get us further down the stretch to realize our vision of a 6-lane facility between Reading and Anderson. This is the most congested stretch of Interstate 5 for about a 400-mile stretch north of Sacramento. And I want to kind of focus on the goods movement aspect of it, because it's something I haven't talked about before, but I don't know if everyone fully appreciates it unless you live in the community and traverse that daily. If you look at it, it's amazing to me that everything we've accomplished, we've done it without $1 of ITIP funds, we've done it without trade corridor improvement funds, and we've just been able to trudge along thanks in part to your partnerships and our partnerships with Caltrans. So Interstate 5 is definitely a goods movement project. I think everybody kind of knows that intuitively. It's a funnel in our area. There's no parallel facilities. If you're going to Portland, Seattle, anywhere up north, anyone from California, you're coming through the Reading area and you're coming through this project area. And it's the same for goods movement as well. We have more widgets coming through our community than we do have Waldos coming through our community. So we have a lot of trucks, a lot of truck traffic coming through. About 1/3, imagine 1 out of every 3 vehicles is a heavy truck coming through our region on Interstate 5. And it's almost weekly, if not daily sometimes, that we have a collision involving a truck, and that snarls up Interstate 5. And what's worse, we also have snow events, fire events. You know, we are the gateway up into the mountain areas past Lake Shasta, and I-5 essentially becomes a parking lot of trucks like you see here. And what that does to our community is it leaves trucks scrambling to find a parking area to get off the road, so they come into our communities, into our neighborhoods to park their vehicles. We're hoping through some ITS elements and some better planning for our project, we can better notify the trucks to park further south, park off the highway instead of getting in the gridlock and parking on the freeway and jamming it up for the local community. You know, there's a new truck stop popping up on I-5, it seems like once a year, and there's plenty of capacity down below if we can do something smart to make that happen. So the story doesn't just end there with goods movement. We also have the Union Pacific Railroad line, and that transects I-5 in the project area where you see the Interstate 5 overcrossing here. The Union Pacific line moves as many goods as do the trucks, and it's also a congested line. And again, there's no detour to the north, so if something happens on this line, which sometimes it does, the nearest detour is through Salt Lake City for the rail traffic. And what concerns us most on this is when you look at those supports, it's really a vulnerable facility to a train strike on those supports. It's something that you don't like to talk about much, but it's there. Those supports are unreinforced. You can't tell in the picture, but those individual supports are about as wide as my arm spread, and they're not reinforced. They're not going to survive a train strike. And you might ask yourself, what are the odds of that happening? Well, it doesn't meet clearance, the minimum height and federal clearance standards, as well as the horizontal clearance standards. So what are the odds? They're pretty good, actually. This was just 3 years ago, about 30 miles north in the canyon, where trains derailed and hit the I-5 supports. Luckily, this was a newer structure that was reinforced and didn't do damage. In all, since records have been kept, we've had 56 derailments in Shasta County, and 10% of those are within 3 miles of the project area. So it is a very real concern. And imagine if in an instant we lost both the rail corridor and the Interstate 5 corridor. That's 8,000 trucks, 1,500 train cars, and you could just imagine the goods movement impacts, the gridlock, the impacts to local roads, passenger rail, let alone the cost to repair and replace the facilities. So this last slide just illustrates those clearance issues I spoke with you about. You can see the existing vertical and horizontal in the red. The horizontal is especially well into the encroachment area of the safety standard. That's a federal safety standard. So 17 feet 8 inches of clearance now horizontally, 25 is the standard, 18 is the absolute minimum, and we're well within that. So in the end, what we have here is an RTIP proposal that that will get some of the need done, but it won't replace the structure. To replace that structure, it's fairly costly. We got to get it out of the Union Pacific, not entirely out of the right-of-way, but we got to meet those clearance standards, and the RTIP funds can't do it alone. If we wait for our RTIP shares to pool enough money, it's not a lot of shares, and literally that 60-year-old structure would crumble by the time we had enough RTIP shares. So we have partnered with Caltrans. The last 2 Tiger cycles, you'll recall Caltrans can only pick 3 projects in the state. This was one of them on both cycles. So we've been working on that recently. We partnered and turned in a TCEP application in partnership with Caltrans where it would take care of this, and TCEP is the minority funder of that. And we just want to impress upon staff and the commission how important this goods movement project is, and we hope to see some TCEP funding in the future as well as this RTIP funding. And we have completed environmental, and we stand ready to construct this year if we can get the funding. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dan. Questions? Very good. Thank you, sir. I do not believe we have a speaker for Lawson, but Teresa, did you want to comment on this one?
Lassen County is proposing within their minimum and their target, and we really had no major issues with them, and they decided not to come and speak after all.
Thank you. Stanislaus, Council of Governments.
Thank you, Commissioner. Stanislaus County is on page 71. The county is proposing to program within their total target. However, they're proposing to program above their minimum by $13 million. They're proposing to restore one project that was deleted in the 2016 STIP, the McHenry Avenue widening. They're also proposing to add $9.8 million in construction to the Route 132 two-lane expressway. And they will also seek SB1 funds to fully fund the construction on that project. Stanislaus?
Thank you, Juan, and thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. I'm happy to be here, but I'm more excited because this project is so important for our region that our board chair and actually my board members are here, and Terry Withrow is one of my board members, will be speaking on that.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, fellow commissioners. My name is Terry Withrow, Stanislaus County Board of Supervisors. I represent District 3. My day job is I'm an accountant. I'm a CPA. I have a firm in Modesto, and I don't have any baskets to offer you here, but I could offer you some tax return work, some financial statements. I can't guarantee any refunds to you, especially in California anymore, but that's available.
Sadly, we can't accept, but thank you for the offer.
I have with me also members from our executive committee here, our chairman, Bill Zalaki, Modesto City Councilman, and my fellow supervisor, Vito Chiesa, here in the back. And kind of out of the, I know your time is precious, so I'll be the only one speaking here today. We're here to talk today about about a project in Stanislaus County, our #1 priority project in Stanislaus County, which is State Route 132. We didn't bring a map.
I have it.
Perfect. All right. It runs, as you can see, it runs east to west, Highway 99 to I-5. It's approximately 20 miles. We've been here before you in the past, and from those appearances, we heard loud and clear what you told us. It was to become a self-help county. And we went out and did just that. We went out and we rallied our elected officials and our constituents, and we passed this tax just in this last year. And we passed it, I might say, with a 72% pass rate, which I think was probably the biggest one.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much, in the state of California. So the way we passed it was really by asking our constituents what they wanted. We proposed to them, before we went out and tried to push the tax as elected officials, we went out and polled them basically and said, what do we need in this county? What's the most important to you? And I can tell you what came back as probably the most important, the number one regional project that came back from this polling was State Route 132. The existing State Route 132 moves about 8.2 million tons annually of ag products in and out of our county. The majority of these products are going to the Port of Oakland. Some of our biggest customers, we call them, as people you're very familiar with, companies you're very familiar with, is Gallo, Gallo Wines, Foster Farms, Blue Diamond. Currently, alternate routes besides the existing State Route 132 would be 120 to the north, which adds about 20 miles to the trip, approximately 40 miles round trip, and to the south is State Route 140, which adds about 50 miles one way, 100 miles round trip to make that. Looking at our region has twice the national unemployment right now, twice the unemployment rate than the nation. Our region has air quality issues in the Central Valley where we are. This project will grow the Central Valley economy. This project will bring safety and capacity to the Central Valley. Nearly 90% of the right-of-way of this project has been purchased, and I might add it's purchased approximately 50 years ago. That's how long this project has been on the books. And my heart goes out to my fellow people from Butte County with regard to the route they just talked about. I've traveled that route very often visiting my wife when she was at college at Chico, and I realized, and we have our own blood alley in Stanislaus County, and that's Route 132. I can think of a very close friend who I lost 2 years ago, father of 5 on that route, and he was lost as a result of some temporary safety measures that have been put in place that really, if they hadn't been there, he would have been alive today. We are right now, we are 6 weeks away from our EIR report being completed. We are that close, 6 weeks away. The project's shovel ready. Our constituents, our taxpayers who passed this self-help measure are waiting for this to happen. They've been waiting for this to happen for years. We've dedicated the last 2 STIP cycles to State Route 132. We've allocated already, as a result of our tax measure, we've allocated, our board, our StanCog, has allocated $10 million towards this project right now. And there's potential for an additional $5 million in developers' fees that will go towards State Route 132. So we're all in on this thing. We're doing everything we can to make this happen. Bottom line is, all 9 cities, along with the county, agree with the importance of this project. It just happens to run right through the middle of my district. That's why I'm up here today. It runs right through my district. I travel this road daily. My kids have traveled this road daily. We're on the final countdown right now of 50 years of planning and waiting for this to happen. A delay in the STIP would take the wind out of our sails, basically, at this point. It's too important to the future of the Central Valley's economy to delay the project anymore. I thank you guys very much for your time.
Thank you, sir. Questions, colleagues? I just want to commend again your folks to have double an unemployment rate and still pass a self-help measure at 72%. From me personally, I think everyone gets a pass to heaven to do something like that. They recognize the importance of mobility to their economy. So bravo, and thank you for your leadership on that one.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Very good. We're now up to SACOG.
Yes, Sacramento Area Council of Governments. SACOG covers 4 counties. Sacramento, located on page 48 and 49. Sutter, page 72. Yolo, 79. And Yuba, 80. As a whole, SACOG is proposing to program below their total target. However, Sacramento and Yolo are programming above their minimum target in the first 2 years of the STIP. Sacramento is proposing to program 10 new projects, 2 of them using APD shares. The 5th Street Feather River Bridge Replacement Project that was programmed with Sutter, Yolo, and Yuba shares is proposed to be deleted from the STIP. Sutter and Yuba are not proposing any new program besides their PPM. Jose Luis?
Thank you, and I want to just take a moment to thank CTC and Caltrans staff. Teresa Favila has been super helpful, as has Eric Zeklin from Caltrans.
Yes.
There's so much work involved in these. I'm sure as you flip through the papers, there's so much attention to detail that we just really couldn't have done without help from them. There's two projects I'd like to call out, talk a little bit about SACOG's culture, and there's a SACOG pools shares, and I'll mention that, and then I'll close so that we can have final comments from those who've turned in their comment slips. So pretty much two projects make up most of the bulk of the programming for the SACOG four-county region. One is the connector. You heard about it yesterday. Our CEO and the director of the connector were here. That's listed as connector segments, and it's also the Camaro project. Between those three projects, that is most of our RTIP. The other project we're programming is the worst, most congested section in our region. I'm sure all of you have driven it or experienced it. It goes by three different names. It's the Cap City Freeway, it's State Route 51, it's Business 80 to the rest of us. It's an elevated freeway. To widen it is going to be so expensive. We are spending the money now to do the environmental, to get it developed so that we can figure out how to fix this congested corridor. This is not the STIP that we wanted. The RTIP we wanted was in 2016, and unfortunately, we all remember what happened. Our number one priority back then was the 5th Street Bridge for about $17.5 million. And I'll talk about that in a bit. But the projects you see here in the RTIP, these are projects that we were not able to add to the last 2016 RTIP. In fact, SACOG delivered many of those projects using its own funds, but the programming procedures requirements at the time would not let us add any substitute projects. These are those substitute projects come back. I want to talk about our culture of strong delivery. SACOG is one of the few regions that takes advantage of the seldom used tool called AB 3090. This is where a project remains programmed in the outer year of the STIP, but the sponsor decides to deliver it using its own local money, and then agrees to wait until that year to finally get repaid from the CTC with SIP funds. We are all about delivering projects as soon as they're ready to go. We meet with every jurisdiction in our region, some of them monthly, some of them quarterly, and some of them bi-monthly, to ask what are the schedule of their projects, how are they doing. We ask about inactivity reports. We go through and we make sure that our projects know all the rules and requirements so that they're delivering strongly. And those sponsors are looking for our RTIP to get programmed. I think your staff will also be aware that I'm all about streamlining, seeing what we can do to get projects delivered even faster. I even push the limits to see how fast we can deliver projects. Now, as was pointed out, we are under our 5-year target. We're 31 million under. It was pointed out that we're over in 2 counties. SACOG pools its shares. When you actually add up Sacramento, Sutter, Yolo, Yuba, in the first 2 years, we are over our minimum by 254,000. That's our contribution to the 500 million that the state is over in the first 2 years. We're actually hoping that we can just round that down, call it 0, and we'd like to keep those first 2 years of projects that we're programming. And since we are at our minimum and under our 5 years, we're asking the Commission support us in our efforts to deliver projects and let those projects deliver on time. Thank you. We've got some much needed projects, and we're excited and ready to deliver them. I'll take any questions.
Very good, thank you. Jose Luis, questions?
Has your area...
Microphone.
Sorry. Thank you. Has your area ranked your projects?
No. In fact, if there was a top priority project, it would be our APDE, Cap City, State Route 51, Business 80 project that's right about the top of the list on the Sacramento list. It's a Caltrans project.
Okay.
Again, our top project, we funded it using our own funding and bought it out of the RIP. That was the 5th Street Bridge. That is going to construction this year up in Yuba County and Sutter County. Okay. You see a lot of negatives on the RTIP list. That's us buying projects out with our own money.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Thank you so much, Jose Luis. Appreciate your presentation. That's it for the formal presentations under our agenda today. However, we do have 2 public comments. So we'll open the public comment section of our hearing and invite Patrick Pittenger, Merced County Association of Governments, to come forward.
Commissioners, Merced County is located on page 32. Real brief overview. Merced County is proposing to program within their total target and within their total minimum target. They are proposing to add one new project, the Livingston northbound widening in Route 99 project.
Thank you, Teresa. Welcome.
Thank you very much. My name is Patrick Pittenger. I'm the Executive Director of the Merced County Association of Governments. Sorry I don't have a map, but it's on Highway 99 at the very north end of Merced County, between the city of Livingston and up to the Stanislaus County border. It's about 7 miles of road. And I want to thank you all for having me today and giving me a few minutes. And I want to thank CTC staff I've been working with and Caltrans staff, particularly District 10, who's been very supportive of this project, as well as Bruce Totera, who had some good comments previously to help clarify this project. As was mentioned previously, it's actually divided into, it's 7 miles of road, but it's divided into the southbound and northbound sections. The southbound section was deleted in 2016 and is proposed as a restoration project. The northbound is proposed as a new project, and I concur with previous comments that it would be ideal if they were to go out together for constructability. This is a representation of a continuation of progress on the most important corridor in the San Joaquin Valley. It would be the removal of a bottleneck and would be consistent with the width both of the north and the south of this project section. It would reduce congestion, improve our operations, and indeed improve safety because we do have safety concerns there as well. And my capable staff just reminded me to repeat that there's about 25% truck traffic here, so this is very much a goods movement related project as well. This project is ready to go. It's we don't have any reservations for this project to advance, environmental or otherwise. This is a priority for MCAG, and I want to reiterate that MCAG is one of eight COGs in the valley, and we work very closely together. We actually had a retreat just last week, and we were expressing the support and the need to support each other. We actually transmitted a letter on January 26th from the group of eight expressing support, not only for this project, but also for projects, for example, in Madera County as well. I just wanted to reiterate that, and the group wants to make sure that we know that we're supporting each other. And then, and while this is already included in the STIP, I appreciate the, as it's presented today, I appreciate the opportunity to support it today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do you have a question?
Did the previous Caltrans presentation give you any clarity on where you are with things?
Well, yes, actually, it was you and he did a fine job of providing additional clarity regarding the northbound versus southbound and where it stands in the STIP today.
Thank you.
Good, thank you. Next speaker, Patricia Taylor, Madera County Transportation Commission. Juan, you have some concerns?
Just brief comments. It's on page 27 of your briefing book. Madera County is not proposing any new programming besides their PPM. They currently have a negative share balance. Negative share balance. This is due to advancement of the shares in 2015 for the Route 41 passing lanes project.
Welcome.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the Commission. My name is Patricia Taylor. I'm the Executive Director of the Madera County Transportation Commission, and I'm here before you today regarding two projects that were placed in the 2016, or removed from the 2016 STIP. But first, let me just give you a little bit of briefing of where State Route 99 is in comparison to for Madera. We're just north of Fresno, but State Route 99 is a critical stretch on the highway in the San Joaquin Valley that cuts through Madera County and helps drive the region's $35 billion export-oriented agriculture industry to market in California and throughout the nation. So if I would have known, I would have brought some maybe walnuts or almonds for your salad.
We love you just the way you are.
Yeah, and so this is a goods movement. State Route 99, as you heard earlier with Caltrans presentation, is the #1 priority or is a top priority for the San Joaquin Valley. This is basically a goods movement. In Madera, it would be to increase connectivity to agribusiness, manufacturers and processing facilities, remove traffic congestion, safety. But let me give you a little bit of background. In 2016, we had two projects. and both were requested to be deleted from the 2016 STIP. And we did remove one of them, and the other project, we decided as partners with Caltrans that it was a very top priority project for Madera. This needs to stay in the STIP, so Madera contributed local funding, Measure T, and our RIP shares to this project to keep the project alive. And fast forward to today, the 2018 STIP, that project was not included in the 2018 STIP, and the reason for that was it was decided that this particular project is competitive for the Trade Corridor Enhancement Program. And from what I have learned is that the Trade Corridor Enhancement Program, our project did not make that list. Caltrans did prepare a grant application, but it did not move forward past the, I believe, at the state level, the headquarters level. I'm here before you today because this is a project that is ready to list. It is a project that is top priority for Madera, for the San Joaquin Valley. I do not come before you, or Madera does not come before you very often, because it does take us quite some time to gather enough funding for a project. And we are finally now ready to list this project. And I've been in this business for 27 years and have been told that get that project shelf ready and we'll find the funding for you. So the project is not in the STIP and it's currently not moving forward in the TCEP program. So I'm here to respectfully request that if funding does become available, if we can have this project added back into the STIP or amended back into the STIP, for the 2018, or when funds do become available, or becomes a top priority project for 2020 STIP. I am not wanting to give up yet on the TCEP program because I do believe that this project is a competitive project and it's very important for us in the Valley. But if funding does not become available, I am requesting that we amend it into the 2018 STIP when funds do become available.
Very good. Yes, Teresa.
So a couple of issues, just to clarify. They did not propose this project in their RTIP.
Right.
That is the reason it is not here.
Right.
They do not have shares to fund the project because they are in the negative. So if in the future they were to come for and amend that project into their RTIP or request it, it will be very difficult for commission to staff to recommend it, given that they have negative shares. Mm-hmm. So until, but just kind of wanted to
We just
clarify.
don't know, right? Okay.
Right.
Very good.
And by the way, I don't know if part of the segment in you know there in Madera, the ITIP is proposing some APD shares for restoring that project that was previously programmed. So I don't know if that's the segment that you're referring to as not coming back, but Caltrans is proposing the preliminary work for that segment.
There's actually two projects, and the advanced project development that you're referring to is the project that was deleted from the 2016
Correct.
and coming back. So the one that I was referring to earlier is one that was kept alive with local dollars and then not included in the 2018 STIP because it was a competitive project for the TCEP program.
So here's the irony in this situation that I fully don't understand. So if I understand you right, Tricia, the segment, the Avenue 12 to 17 is actually shovel-ready to go.
Yes, it is.
But it was not it was not in the ITIP.
It's not in the ITIP.
Yeah, but Avenue 7 to 12 is not fully ready to go. It needs a few more hurdles to jump.
It's in.
And it was put in the ITIP.
Yes.
So the one that's ready to go, that can break ground after it's contracted, is not, we currently don't have a method of funding it. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So Bruce is getting up because he's I got a question for him.
And if I can talk while Bruce slowly walks up. The reason, not to speak to the whole ITIP priorities and why they would prioritize construction of one state highway over another. In terms of the pre-construction, the shares for the advanced project development element, those shares can only be used for environmental and design work of projects that are going to be funded later. So that would explain why a project could get in for pre-construction while there are other things available for construction. And that's specific to the statute for that funding.
Very good. Any other?
Okay, so my next question is, there's several paths here, but has the path been explored, and I asked staff to explore, if SB1 survives November, is there a path to consider a TIFIA project, a TIFIA loan, whereby we would borrow from a future ITIP? Because this is a shovel-ready project ready to go, is there some type of path like that? We're ready to go to, and I understand we're ready to go to construction.
When SB1 stays in place,
Thank you.
I don't think that's something that we would be able to do, because assuming we program the vast majority of what's before us today, there'll be no extra shares in the STIP in this current cycle for which to do that. The TIFIA loan is a different process, and I don't know what, I don't know how the state would go about paying it back if it's not programmed somewhere, but it couldn't get in the STIP this cycle because we'll end up very close to fully programmed.
Susan?
Well, I was just going to say it appears to me, and staff can look at this, but it would take the next cycle. So the good news with SB1 and just with the STIP generally where we're at today, because SB1 funding is in perpetuity, there's a lot of pent-up need at this point in time in the first 2 years of the STIP, and just generally I know among the competitive programs, staff is expecting far more requests than what the funding we have available for projects that are ready. But what it means is as soon as the commission makes the adoption actions in March and May, staff will begin updating the guidelines and will begin working on a new call for projects under these different programs. So the good news that we're all faced with in recognizing your concern, I know that we're going to be faced with that across the state because the pin-up needs are there and there are a lot of projects ready to go. It's just going to take us some time to get normalized and get that steady funding flowing and getting these projects done. The 2016 shock really devastated the state, having to delete projects or delay them way out into the later years. And so I guess that's what I would be my 2 cents worth. The STIP is just a very statutorily driven program as well. And so there's just, there's a lot of requirements that we need to stay in. And when we have a county that's already over-programmed, that's, something we need to look at.
Any other questions or comments?
I would just, Bruce, do you have some insight for Trish as to why the project, from the Caltrans standpoint, didn't because I know she felt like she was led to believe that it would be trade corridor from Caltrans headquarters would be supportive, and she's learning that it's not as supportive. Do you have a kind of an explanation of that you can give?
Yes, I can talk to both aspects of that. It remains a priority for the interregional program. Just the fiscal capacity we discussed before, and we'd like to actually hire Mitch into the department. He explained that so well as to why the APDE were able to advance in a neighboring project where we can't take this one through to construction. We just don't have the construction capacity now. But by advancing the segment, joining segment, it demonstrates our commitment to this corridor, and we have other Highway 99 projects that are also in progress. So we are not backing away from this corridor. We're taking it as we have the capacity, but at the same time, you saw the Highway 70 corridor come forward with Butte. We're attending to that in the testimony from Lake and Mendocino over Highway 29. We're attesting to that.
I appreciate that.
So we're trying to do very many things over a fairly small amount of money. If my math is correct, and I was the one non-engineer up there on that panel, the increase of $275 million to the ITIP over the 10-year period is $27.5 million per year increase to the ITIP. We can do some additional work with that, and the STIP is fixed so that we continue to increase. We get more money than we used to, but it's not a tremendous amount, so we're going to continue to have to take bites at this rather than doing broad corridor-wide projects. We still don't have the capacity for that. As far as the freight program, the competitive freight program, it was on the list that we had sent out to the districts. We had an initial set of projects like, yes, these are high priorities, and as they all came together, the state is getting 40% of the freight funding, and that funding got used up by higher priority projects before we could get to this one. So it remains a priority to us, but under the statewide program of balancing all the other regions and all the other projects that are also ready to go, we weren't able to reach this. So we'll start the next STIP cycle almost immediately after this cycle is awarded. 2 years under this process is very quick.
Thank you, Bruce.
Okay.
Thank you, Patricia. Thank you for testifying today. Are there any other questions or comments? Any other public speakers that we have not called that would like to comment? Then we are at the witching hour to be adjourned, but I just want to close by, again, celebrating the fact that we actually have funding, that this is not 2016, that if it were other than that, this would be a very different conversation than we've had today, and I'm pleased that there are a lot more happy faces out there than there have been in past years. So thank you all for your time and attention. Thank you for your hard work. Staff, thank you very much. And we